If you've seen my last video, you'll probably remember Famicom Detective Club, a short-lived trilogy of adventure games that started in the 80s and randomly got a revival on the Switch in 2021. I suggest watching my video on the rest of the series before this one to get caught up on context, because as of me writing this, the newest entry into the series, Emio the Smiling Man, just came out earlier today. I liked it so much that I finished it already, and I have no interest in repeating myself. I will also be continuing to refer to the main character as Takashi, as the game lets you carry over save data from the first two, and that's what I called him there. The core gameplay hasn't really evolved from the last two games, like at all. You still just select options from a menu, check around the environment with a cursor and look for clues. There are some changes, but they're just kind of there. They're not better than how it was before, but they're not worse either. For instance, you can no longer open your notebook by just opening the pause menu. Instead, you now have to pick it from the command menu to use it, just like everything else. A bit of a weird change, but not a big deal. You also get your own mobile phone now. This means that you can theoretically use it to call up any character you have the number of to ask for advice or clues, including numbers from the first two games for fun cameos. But in reality, it's just not the case because Takashi keeps forgetting to charge it and you're locked out of using it during conversations anyway, so the amount of times where you can actually just use it freely is very limited. They also changed some of the commands' names, but that's pretty much it. On a visual level, there have been some improvements since the remakes. Everything is way more expressive than before, there are a lot more scenes that are properly animated, leaning more into the cinematic aspect of the girl who stands behind, and most of the character designs are solid. I especially like how you frequently see Takashi and Ayumi wearing different outfits throughout the game, which helps the game feel like time is actually passing. Unfortunately, some of the characters do still look incredibly weird. Never in my life did I ever think I'd be audibly yelling, "Who the fuck allowed Fomp to go to middle school?" But here we are. Once again, even the sound design has seen massive improvements. Pretty much every single voice actor does a great job, with the only real exception being Takashi himself, who doesn't leave much of an impression. Since this game is wholly original, there's also a fully original soundtrack this time, with the occasional remix of older themes here and there. All around, I'd say it's really good, having been composed by the same person who rearranged the music for the remakes, Takashi Abo, who most will probably know for being the composer of Steins Gate. Every song is great and enhances the mood very well. Helps that there's such a big variety too for once, with every major area having its own theme and there being 4 entirely distinct investigation themes. I think that's enough talking about the visuals and music though. The main reason you're here is definitely the story, so I guess it's time we get into that. The game is set around 2 years after the events of the missing hair. Takashi, now 19, and Utsugi are once again called out by the police to help investigate a murder. The victim this time is a middle schooler by the name of Eisuke Sasaki, who was found dead behind a pumping station strangled to death by a cord-like object, with a paper bag on his head that has a smiling face on it. During the investigation, Takashi runs into the policewoman in charge of the investigation, one Junko Kuze, and her partner Daisuke Kamihara. After returning to the office and telling Ayumi, who is now a full-time employee, of the case, she informs him of this game's major urban legend, the Smiling Man. They say that should a young girl be found crying at night, Emio, a man wearing a paper bag and a smile on it, will appear before them. Should they fear him, then they die, but if they laugh at him, he disappears. What makes it even stranger is that the current case and the urban legend also bear a striking resemblance to a serial murder from 18 years before, with the same kind of bag over their head, though that last detail never went to the public. As if that wasn't strange enough, all these victims were teenage girls, whilst this new one is a middle school boy, making the connection between the two cases and the rumor a lot less clear than originally presumed. So from this point onwards, the office splits up, and while Utsugi goes to investigate the origins of the Smiling Man to find a connection to the killings, Takashi is left in charge of investigating the connection to the murders 18 years ago, and Ayumi in charge of gathering information on Sasaki. This isn't just a story thing either, mind you, as the game frequently makes you swap between your point of view and Ayumi's, in order to get as much information on the case as possible. Funnily enough, this helps in making the game feel like a sequel to BS Detective Club as well as the first two, despite it being the only game in the trilogy to never be acknowledged in this one. This actually makes it even more fun when the chapters double down on the end of chapter recap the second game does, as it's now a discussion between Takashi and Ayumi where they compile the results of their respective investigations for the day. That's basically it for plot setup, but trust me when I say it's very good, both standalone and as a sequel to the older games. You actually don't even need to have played the other games to play Emio, as barring a single unnamed cameo, the only returning characters are the members of the detective agency themselves. I'd personally recommend it, since Missing Air ties into Takashi's personal life and the girl who stands behind, and BS Detective tie into Ayumi's, but neither is necessary to understand Emio. The game's cast is all around very solid, with most characters being pretty likable. The pacing is also fantastic, and even though there is still some humor here, it's mostly kept in check, as the game does take itself pretty seriously most of the time. If there is one criticism I have to give the game though, it's that its biggest mystery, the one of who Emio is simultaneously the story's biggest strength and weakness. By the time you're about halfway through the game, the answer becomes pretty obvious. However, it's everything surrounding it that makes it stand out so strongly. The connection to the new case, the killer's MO, and the way it all ties back into the Smiling Man legend are absolutely fantastic. Out of every game in the series, this is far and away the one that ties into the idea of what it is that causes an urban legend to come into being the most, and it does so in an extremely interesting way. It's very well done. There is, however, one thing I have to note. In an interview, Sakamoto admitted that he believes the ending will end up being very controversial, and I'm inclined to agree. I won't go into details here, I'm keeping it up for the spoiler segment of the video, but just be warned that the ending won't play out like you think it will, for better and for worse, though I personally found it to be for the better. As for remaining things, they actually did bring back the neat little post-credits bonus thing from the second game I won't mention in detail here. However, now it's a little bonus on the main menu instead of being part of the main experience. That's pretty much it. Now, the plot leaves some things intentionally unresolved, but that's because after beating the game, you unlock the true ending, quote unquote, a little post-game that shows you, Utsugi's side of the investigation, and I think more than makes up for that. See, the game actually has an M rating, whereas the remakes of the first two games only got a T. Throughout the main game I was constantly wondering why, as despite one or two slightly more graphic things, the game really isn't any more or less dark than the first two. The reason is the aforementioned post-game. It's significantly darker in tone and more graphic than the main game, so if you're waiting for your M rating justification, there you go. Now, there are some more things that I'd absolutely want to talk about, like details surrounding the ending and post-game, but said things do contain major spoilers for the entire game, so I suggest skipping to the timestamp on screen so you can see my closing thoughts on the game. Okay, I might have lied, I don't actually have that much to say, I just really wanted to give my thoughts on the ending and post-game. I didn't originally get what Sakamoto meant by saying that the ending will be controversial, but in retrospect, I think it's pretty obvious. On one hand, I think it's the fact that it leaves a lot of things unresolved for the post-game to answer. I don't think a lot of people are going to like that decision. On the other hand, I think he meant specifically that Eisuke did in fact commit suicide. There's a lot of hints towards it throughout the game, but I can definitely see why a lot of people wouldn't like it anyway. It's just not something most players are going to expect. Personally, I thought it was foreshadowed well enough though. I also feel like a lot of people are not going to be happy about seeing Kuze turn into the plot's primary instigator, though I'd love to be wrong on that since they hint at it from very early on. Other than that, fucking Christ, the Minoru postgame was wild. I was a bit miffed when they basically didn't get into Emio/Minoru's identity and past at all, which is what I mentioned earlier, and I was actually just about to message some friends saying that it was really good until the ending, and then the post-credits showed up and blindsided me hard. I totally get it though. It's significantly darker and much more graphic than the main game, and I guess they didn't want to beat people over the head with it all of a sudden. Them basically pulling a Kojima and having what is essentially a 20-minute long animated short movie as the end of the game was absolutely insane. I really didn't expect it. It actually gives me hope that maybe in the next Metroid game we'll get something similar. I mean, fucking hell, seeing a guy mutilate his own face with rusty car shears was the last thing I expected to be seeing in this game, but it's there. It was also extremely concise. I wonder how much someone would be able to understand the plot if they haven't played the game but watched this. I actually tried looking into who worked on this short film, and while I couldn't find the exact studio, I did find out that it was directed by the director of the anime film Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop. I haven't seen it, but it got nominated for a Japanese Film Award, so that's gotta count for something, right? But yeah, no, the short film ending was really fucking good. Still thinking about it. I really hope future FTC games, if there will be any, will lean into this direction even harder. That would be awesome. In the end, I found Emio the Smiling Man to be really good. Almost all of the complaints I've seen about it are from people who went in expecting something like a horror game or something with more involved gameplay, or expected every mystery to be written like Danganronpa. And at that point, that's on you. The mystery was great and very fun to solve. I genuinely consider this to be one of the best Japanese adventure games in recent years. It's really that good. Unfortunately, there is one big problem here. The game's not very long. A bit longer than the first two games, sure, taking me some odd 10 hours. But whether or not that can justify a $50 purchase is entirely up to you. I really hope this game ends up doing well enough to warrant continuing the series, because we've got something really special here. Having said all that, I wish you all a wonderful morning, day, evening, or night. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got to go consult with some local construction workers. Cheers.